Coach, why don't you get us started with the opening statement about the class, and then go through each player and talk a little bit about them, and then we'll open up for questions.
All right. First, I apologize for being a couple minutes late. We on signing day we have a pickup basketball game with the staff, so we got moved courts because of the shoot around with Hampton, so we had to make it over to the rec. So I had to leave a little early and come back over here, and I didn't want to leave. So, but anyways, it's fun to get to signing day and see a class come together, and then it's also good to get around your staff that put so much hard work into all of this. So that's how I'd like to start it up, just thanking our staff. Everything here we do together, and if it wasn't for everybody collectively believing in the same vision, then I don't think that we'd be able to do this thing. And so recruiting's a lot of hard work that goes back, usually about a year at our level, as far as knowing these kids and putting a lot of time and effort. And it's just not these last couple weeks getting on the road. It's a lot of phone calls at night that you're with your family, and text messages and on your phone, and camps and traveling the country and home visits and all of that stuff. So it's special whenever a class comes together like this. And so I just can't thank my staff enough. And Geiska Crowley, that's the director of recruiting, kind of organizes everything and everybody, and everybody's had just a great vision on what this class needed to be, and feel like we put together a special class. I will say that we joke around a little bit that you won't really know what this class will be until a couple years down the road. We play in a game that there'll be some guys that are able to come here and contribute right away, but then we play in a game that people have to develop, and you've got to project a little bit. And some of these guys will come in here and you got to develop them, and they got a red shirt, and they got to get better. And if your roster's where you want it, then they're redshirt freshmen, and they start to play a little bit, and then your older guys on the roster have been in your program and know what's expected, and they can learn from those guys. They learn the winning traditions and what the culture's all about. And so you'll be hearing some of these names right away. You'll be hearing some of these names a few years down the road, and I think that's a good thing. But, so we're excited. 18 guys is a lot of guys to sign an early signing period. It's the most we've ever signed. This is the third year for it. So I'm excited to talk about these guys now first publicly, since you can't do that up until today. So with that, I'll go through each guy. You got the list right there in front of you, and I'll talk about these guys. I don't have any notes on them, but I know these guys as good as anybody. So we'll just we'll talk about them, and then you can ask questions and go from there. First, Giannini. From up in Fort Wayne, outside Fort Wayne, Indiana, just committed to us this past week, and he was the first guy to send in his NLI this morning. I think he can be a guy. We definitely put an emphasis on the defensive line with losing a couple guys, and then next year having some older guys in that room. We needed to get some young high school guys that can come in here and compete, but they can also develop behind some of our older guys. And the biggest thing I can say about Giannini is his best days are in front of him. He was born in Haiti, came over here when he was 9 years old, so the game of football is new to him. Started playing really when he was in 8th grade. He's a big, strong kid, maybe similar to like Malik, a little bit taller than Malik, but in that same type of frame. So we're excited about him. Awesome kid. I've told our staff we love having kids from. We've had 5 kids that have come here since I've been the head coach that's from Haiti, and they've been a pleasure to coach. Super appreciative and hardworking, and it was awesome to have his family here and get to know him. Did it the right way. I'll talk about a lot of these guys. He came over for a game. His dad brought him over here. We got to sit down with him in person, offer him, see him multiple times, and so we feel like we really know what we're getting in him. Deontay Cox next on the list. We all know Avante Cox, and it's his identical twin brother. So he's kind of had a longer road to get here. Both of them have transferred here. Avante at a high school from Wyoming, and then was an all-conference player for this year. We've been trying to get Dante here for a little while because he went to another school first, and then transferred to junior college, and just getting his AA and getting here. So finally, he's putting in a lot of hard work. He's transferring a lot of hours here. So he'll have 2 years to play. He'll get with his brother, and they both have 2 years left to play. Similar type skill set as his brother. They might be a little bit different. Deontay's a little bit taller, but not by much. But if you watch their high school film from Rochester, it's a lot of the similar type stuff. Playmaker with the ball in his hands, elite speed, and he's just gotten bigger and stronger. So it's been, a year and a half or so since he's played. So it'll be good to get him here for spring ball and getting him involved in winter workouts and get him going. So we're excited to have him. Jalen DeVries from Clear Lake, Iowa. I've known Jalen for a while because my brother-in-law is the defensive coordinator on his staff and lives in Clear Lake. So I've known about Jalen since he was coming up, and the excitement they've had around the school. Just an all-around great kid, comes from an awesome family. You probably know his dad, Jared DeVries, which is a Hall of Famer from the University of Iowa, played I think 11 years for the Detroit Lions, and is their head coach. So he's a coach's son. He's grown up since he was in diapers in pro locker rooms, and he knows what it's supposed to look like. The biggest thing that I like in him being a quarterback is he's had one B his entire time in high school, and it was a freshman English class, and it makes him sick to talk about that he got a B when he was a freshman. He's a competitor. He's a good basketball player on a team that got third last year in the state, and he runs track. He does 3-sport athlete, and just all the things that we look for. Their team had a really successful run this year. And so we're excited about Jalen. He's been down here I think 3 times now on campus, and we've gotten to know him, and we're excited about adding him. Zach Gibson, Zach's an intriguing kid. He's a basketball player growing up, and he's big, tall kid, all of 6'5", and just really kind of like myself started to figure out that football might be the avenue for him to have the most success at the next level. His dad played in the NFL, but he's always been a basketball guy. But his body started to grow a little bit, and so he's only played 2 years of football. But so he has a frame and an athleticism that I think he's going to come in here and develop. We're going to start him out on the offensive side of the ball, and we're excited to just see the future for him and him develop. He'll be here. Actually, he's an early enrollee. He's graduated from high school. He's done everything that he needs to do, and takes school really seriously. He's a really mature kid. Everything we've asked him to do, he does. And so it'll be good for him to get in here and get going right away here in January. So Derek Harden, he's a kid also that we always try to get kids to come to camp, and so does everybody in the country. So we know that it's tough to get everywhere, but those in-person evaluations are as critical as anything when you're talking about recruiting, is just seeing them in person, seeing them for your own eyes, making those evaluations for yourself, not just taking someone's word for it. And Derek came up here and came to our offensive line camp and was super impressive. We knew he was a kid that could play at this level, and we wanted to get. And so came on campus with his family, committed to us during the year, and got him on an official visit with an outstanding family. He's a worker. He's a great student. Reminds me a lot of Xavion, that type of physicality up front. And so we're excited to get Derek. Isaiah from Fort Zumwalt North, he's exciting too. Same thing. He came to camp. We saw him at Lindenwood this summer, and then we wanted to get him on campus. He came back over to campus without an offer and earned it right here at camp. I mean, he's just a competitor. He's a quiet, humble kid, but loves to compete, and I like that about him. He plays on both sides of the football. He's not scared to run down and hit people. He's a physical kid, and he was a playmaker. They had an incredible season this year, got beat in the semifinals was unbeaten all the way into that up to that point. And so again, another kid that came and we saw him and he competed. And when we look back and do some quality control and look back on who is the most successful guys that when we recruit, a lot of times those are the kids that come to camp and we've spent a ton of time on. We see them, we know what we're getting, and Isaiah is like that. He came on his official visit this last weekend, and it was fun to have him and his mom and dad here, and we're excited to get him. Adam Hundemer from out in Cincinnati, Lakota East, is another defensive lineman that we're signing. We got 3 of them on this list, high school kids. Just, I told him probably the biggest compliment you can get as a defensive lineman is you're a kid that just plays extremely hard, that you have a motor, you're relentless. We can teach you the technique, and you're going to continue to get better at that. But if you don't see those type of things on high school film, then they probably don't have a shot if it's about playing with the motor and playing down inside, which is not always fun. But if you're just relentless, then you're going to have a shot. You're going to develop. You're going to get coached up. And Adam just plays extremely hard. If you put on his film, he's got that type of motor. He's got that physicalness to him, and he's just going to keep getting better. He weighs about I think he was 253 when he came here. He's a kid that's going to put on a lot of weight and be versatile on the defensive line. Can play outside, can play inside, depending on how much weight we put on him. But just his mentality excites me the most with Adam. He sent in his NLI this morning from he was down in Orlando, and he's outside of Universal, and he was getting ready to go in, and his mom and dad made him slow down to take the picture of the NLI, and he was like, I'm getting ready to actually walk in Universal right now. So he's on vacation and on a little break, but I'm glad we were able to get him in here. Jathan Jones, same thing, from Carnahan, right in the city of St. Louis. Awesome kid. I just can't say enough about what type of person he is, what type of kid he is. When you see him, he looks the part. He looks like a Power 5 type receiver, and so another kid that plays multiple sports. When you walk in the high school and you ask the whoever escorts you to the coach's office, whoever when you're recruiting, I always like to ask those. Whoever is the office assistant, what do you think about Jathan? And whenever their eyes light up and they talk just about what type of kid he is as a peer, that means a lot. And that whole school just raves about what type of kid he is. And he's going to come here and be a worker and put his nose down. And I'm excited to put him in the receiver room. Is going to be a good one. Chris from Rochester. Another kid that's just used to winning state championships. I think that when you see we've got multiple guys from Rochester, Nick Baker's on our team, Avante and Deontay are on our team. That's it from Rochester, isn't it? And now it's really Sacred Heart Griffin and Rochester. If there's ever a kid on those schools, we're going to go at them. They're used to winning. They've been coached up as good as you can get coached up, and Chris he's played in 3 state championships. What they've done up there at Rochester is incredible. 8 out of 10 state championships. My brother's on the staff now, and I know that he's excited about that. They bumped him up to 5A to maybe try to put a halt to that run, and they win 5A, and they're the smallest school in 5A, and so he's used to winning, and that means a lot too. When you get kids here that are used to a certain standard and used to winning close games, and you put a lot of those type of kids in there, then there's not an adjustment, and that's that he's going to keep developing. His dad started 3 years at the University of Illinois at center. Was a guy that just kept developing and doing a good job, and Chris is going to do the same thing. He's going to come in here, he's going to develop. He's a kid with a really high ACT score, and he's smart, just like you want your offensive lineman. Sean Larkin from Neuqua Valley up in Naperville. He was on, forget what team he was on. He was on the USA rugby team, though, for his age group all the way through. He was 16 years old. So, that just tells you what type of toughness you're getting in this kid. Another kid that's really up for the presidential scholarship here, 29 on the ACT, incredible family, smart, tough. So I didn't really have to see him do much more whenever he's on the rugby team. and he's got a 29 on the ACT. He's going to figure it out. He's tough and he's smart. He's coachable, and he's a really good football player too. So we're excited to add his toughness, his playmaking ability, and be another good addition to the wide receiver room. Aaron Maddox is coming here from the University of Colorado. Aaron's brother Christian is on our team currently, and Aaron was a really sought-after player 2 years ago by most Power 5 schools. He ended up starting the last 2 years at Colorado. Got in the transfer portal after he got injured at the beginning of this season, about week 4 or 5, and so obviously we had a pretty good end with his brother being here, and got him over here and told Christian not to screw it up as his host, and he did a good job with that. But I know he's excited, and those guys are going to room together and live together. They're only separated by I think 15 months of age, so they've grown up together, and it'll be fun. And he's a high-level player that could have immediate impact. When you watch his film from junior college and you watch his film from Colorado, he's a Power 5 player, and so he's got 2 years left to play, and we're excited to get him here. He'll be here in January, get going in our winter conditioning program, and get going in spring football. And Dre Newman from down in Alabama. We call him Mr. Yes Sir, just because that's all he says is yes sir, yes ma'am. He's been raised the right way by his mom and dad. They were a pleasure to have on the visit. Just a great kid. He's a worker, and he's going to come here. We've got 3 young corners. Another emphasis is just developing young corners. We've had 4 senior corners that left the team this year. So. So we wanted to get young in that. Sometimes there's some developing to do, but we want to spend some time to develop young corners. And Dre was a guy that we had pegged from the beginning, who came up here in February to our first early junior day, stayed on him since, committed right before the season started, and stayed true to us the entire time. And so we're fired up to have Dre. Jacob Petzel, he's a kid that he's from Ellsworth Community College. He's from Wisconsin, up north of Green Bay. That's basically who you were getting, just a tough, Wisconsin kid that plays defensive end, and he's 6'4", 260 pounds. So just a worker. He's the all-time leading scorer at his high school in basketball. So he's a kid that's probably a lot like I talked about with Zach and even myself. You were playing AAU and you were thinking about basketball and thinking about being recruited, and then some things happen and you're a really good football player and you start to grow and put on some size and probably you're a Division I football player. And so he had some opportunities last year to walk on to some Power 5 schools, but decided to go to Ellsworth and see what was out there. So he's a high school qualifier and played this season at Ellsworth. So he'll have 3 years to play. And so we're excited about what Jake. He came down here on his visit, and we wanted to get him. He had another group of 5 offer and decided to commit here. And so he'll be here in January too. Can't say enough good things about him and his family and the toughness that he's going to bring, and just the work ethic. We had to get him out of the gym from working out to actually go sign his NLI. We're waiting on it. And he was like, well, I'm working out. And I'm like, well, how about you go and get that sent in and go back to the workout? But so that's a good thing. But he's a low-maintenance kid that's going to put his head down and be a great student athlete here. Peyton Reeves, another kid from St. Thomas Aquinas over in outside Kansas City, that's used to winning, competing for championships, excellent wrestler. Sprained his ankle this year, his senior year, and which took him out of the games down the stretch. And so he won't wrestle this year, but he'll be healthy once he gets here. And great family, again, coming from a great program that's used to winning. Another kid that we saw in camp that got over here on a junior day, that came back for a game, and all those things matter. When they show that they want to be here, they want to be a Saluki, committed to us before the season, and had all other offers in our league. And so I'm excited about Peyton. John Vollmer, St. John Vianney High School in St. Louis. We've got a couple other kids from Vianney that are on our team, Lucas Giegling being one of those guys. They're tough. They've been coached hard, and they do a good job. His grandma and grandpa live in Marion, so I think that helped us out over in Kokopelli. And so anytime you got grandma and grandpa within striking distance to get you a meal or do some laundry, I think that went a long way for John. But another kid that comes from a great family, really enjoyed the home visit, and he comes from a big family. I think he's one of five. So it was fun to get them over here. Again, another kid that's been over here a bunch of times. We've seen him in person. We've seen him at camp. Mom and dad, grandma and grandpa, they've all been over here, and we feel like we know him really well. He's a big kid. He's 235 on his visit, probably be 250 pretty easily. Big, strong kid that will add a lot to the tight end room. Jaylon Welch. I know it says Jay. We thought maybe it was Jalen at first, but it's Jaylon. And so he's fun. He's fun to be around. He really is. He's an exciting kid with a big personality. Comes from Nazareth in Chicago. Another kid, state champion. It's incredible to see the amount of state champs that we have on this list. But got beat in the state championship this year, won it last year. His head coach is a Saluki. Just a lot of things that add up. And we always make Chicago an important part of our recruiting. And I know we have a ton of alumni out there, and every time that we come, but none more than Nazareth as far as the guys that know what Saluki football is about. We've had a couple here that have had great careers, and so we're excited about him. He can run. He's probably the fastest kid on this list. We saw him in camp up in Chicago at one of the satellite camps that we saw, and he's a legitimate 4.3 type guy, 10.6 in the 100. He's going to run track. He can fly. And so we're excited to put him in the corner room and develop and do a great job. Jeffrey Wells from Decatur MacArthur, he's an outstanding. I think I'm on repeat with all these guys about what type of kids they are, but we put an emphasis on that, and there's none more than Jeffrey Wells. He is like the principal of that school. He's just an incredible kid. I don't know what else to say about him. He's been coached really well. His high school coach is a guy that I've known for a long time, and Coach Spates does a great job with those guys. And he came over there after his freshman year. He's from Indianapolis, moved over, and he's a worker. He's a kid that's got a physicality about himself that's just going to come here. Another kid that has the highest GPA in his class. And so school and his degree is really important for him. He's a kid that has really things mapped out on what he wants to do in life. And so we're excited to put him in the safety room. He'll be with Coach Petrino. And so we're excited about him. Colin Williams from Mill Creek down in Atlanta is the last corner that we're signing. And we're excited about Colin. Another kid, outstanding kid, had multiple FCS offers from teams that are in the playoffs. And Colin and his family knew what type of education he was going to get here, and they came up on campus. And so we're excited to get Colin. It was a fun official visit. 2 weekends ago, we had 14 kids on campus. 13 of them are signing today. I think we've only had 2 kids on campus that aren't signing. And so they've come here. They want to be here. I think Colin's parents kind of led the way in some of that too. It's fun when you see the parents start to get to know each other, the kids to get excited about each other. And so we're excited about Colin. Some of these guys are going to have to come in, especially at the skill positions, and have a chance to compete right away. So we think it's a great class. I know there's going to be a lot of Division I coaches that stand up on the podium today and tell you about what a great class they have. So that's our job, to get them here and develop them, and get them out there on the field. And but we do feel like we did a great job of selecting the right guys. You're always going to have a signing class, but is it the right type of guys that fit who you are and fit our vision and our culture, and we feel like these 18 guys do that.
So,
Two things
Maddox,
that you said, two things that you said that stand out, I guess, in the DNA of this high IQ and excelled in other sports. Is that kind of the DNA of what you were looking for?
Without a doubt, I think that all kids should play multiple sports. I mean, it's a thing that I know that our entire staff, that's going to be one of the first questions when they come back. I want to know what other sports they play. Are they used to competing? Are they used to maybe not being the best at something and getting better? And going out there, I mean, what else are you going to do? I mean, competing and playing and being with your classmates, and so multiple sports, and football intelligence. Obviously, most of the time it translates. You got to be a kid that's disciplined in the classroom, but I think more so it's about the want to and the drive. Is your education important to you? There's a lot of kids that have left here that get C's and B's, and they give it everything they got, and they're out there in the working world right now with a great education, and they're doing a great job. It's the kids that we're not a babysitting service, and we've got to weed through those, and we've got to ask the right questions, and we got to look at how many tardies they have, and how many times they're missing school, and how many times they've been late to weights, and all that kind of stuff, because usually those things don't change. They might change a little bit, but they're not going to change completely. So you want to get guys that are from great programs that have a high expectation of themselves off the field, number one, and then that usually translates to on the field. I don't think you have to look much past what we say is the standard in Jeremy Chin. It's his final semester. He's going off to train. He gets all these accolades. He could easily slip. He took 6 classes, got 5 A's and 1 B. His final grade just came out. So it doesn't stray too far from that. If you're a kid that's going to do everything right, the stuff on the field usually takes care of itself.
so Aaron Maddox had a rough run-in with a sideline fan this year against Air Force, will he be prepared for spring?
Yeah, no, he's back. Yeah, that was his injury. So obviously sometimes you look into injuries. Was it surgery? He just got a pretty bad, ugly cut on that sideline fan that split him open, and he was out for a few weeks because of that cut on his leg. But he could have came back and played this season, but he took the redshirt year, and so he's fully healthy. He'll be in day one of workouts.
So they'll, as I count them, there'll be 4 guys at least that will be eligible for spring: Gibson, Cox, Maddox, and Petson.
Yep,
That'll be it.
that's it.
What position do you see Kerwitz playing best? Offensive lineman? I mean, could he be a tackle? Or a
I think he's
center?
tall. He's tall enough to play. He's versatile to do everywhere, But yeah, I mean, he's probably when you get him in here. But yeah, he's got enough length to play all 3 spots, and so though that stuff usually works itself out. Obviously, tackle is probably the most difficult. So you put them out there and see if they can do that, and it's easier to move them in than it is inside out. So, but we'll get him here and throughout, summer conditioning and fall camp, and see what the best fit he is, But he has shown that he can play all 3, and we try to get everybody snapping the football.
When you're recruiting a multi-sport athlete, is there a certain position that kind of meshes well with a specific sport other than football?
Really just all of them. I think obviously you can go and watch a kid play basketball. Like I knew I wanted Javon when I watched Javon play basketball. I remember going up to Centralia. They were playing Carbondale. Carbondale had 2 Division I basketball players on the court, and Javon was the best player. Period. He never got subbed out. He was the one shooting free throws at the end. He was the one guarding everybody. Those guys would sub out. He'd bring the ball up the court. He'd go after every rebound. And just sometimes you just want to see him competing, And so, but obviously different positions. Wrestling, we talk about rugby, a certain type of toughness, a certain just accountability, of just showing up and doing your best for another coach. Even maybe that's not your best sport, but how are you with failure too? Like, do you keep coming back, or you just say, well, I'm going to go play football, so I'm not going to compete out here? It's like Jalen DeVries. He says he's taken one shot in the first 5 games. He's not even a scorer. He goes out there and plays defense, and he rebounds, and he dives on the floor because he wants to be a part of the experience for his school and his fans and the kids that grew up with him. I think that you can tell a lot with whatever sport they play.
You know, a lot of your recruiting now go with the summer camps instead of actually seeing games during the fall.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to see games in the fall. It really is. You know, you get one opportunity to see, so the rules you can see and play once, and then you're playing. So the bye week's important. You know, we get out and see games. I was able to see, you know, you expect they all play at the same time too, so you can only be in one place. So you spread out and you see those games. What the priority is to see those guys actually play. And then, yeah, it's important to get them here during the summertime, or at least see them at some camp in person. But like I said, I mean, we were watching film with Jalen and some of the stuff that you get to do some position meetings with quarterbacks, and you know, it's a different game. I mean, I played it when you're in shorts and a t-shirt and you get to throw to a guy running with no defender. I mean, you should look pretty good, you know. So you got to see, and then we're watching the film, and it was, I think, Carson Wentz and some pro film that we like to show the quarterbacks is you're getting hit after you throw, and it's the fourth quarter, and you're down, it's raining, it's tough. I mean, that so you want to see them play with pads on. I mean, you don't play in shorts and a t-shirt. Unfortunately, that's what you get most of the time in these camps. So you gotta use that. Obviously, they gotta have the measurables. Can they run? Can they bend? Can they do those type of things? But then you got to get to what's really important: is are they tough? Are they coachable? Are they a good teammate?
Are you done with recruiting?
No, I don't think you're ever done with recruiting. We got 18 guys. We feel good with where we're at. We got a couple positions we'll still be after. I think when we get to February, we'll have a couple more ads, but we don't have much more room. So we got to, you know, there's not a running back on this list that we've kind of taken our time on to see, and there's some kids that are out there that aren't signing today, and so we'll continue to evaluate and always trying to get our roster better.
Whether you're a high school or transfer running back.
You know, whatever, you know, is the best for our team.
Or just running backs in general.
Yeah, just running backs in general. We feel good about, obviously, the running backs. We're bringing back 2 of the best, I think, in the conference with Rowe and with Javon. And so, but it's always important. I think in this game, and especially at FCS football, your depth is going to get tested. You know, and if you're not a team that's very deep, you see teams that get off to a good start, you might have those 5-6 wins, and then injuries are going to come, and if you can't withstand some things because your best players are hurt, then you're not going to be a great team. So you're always building depth across the board.
Dante Cox, is he a similar player to Levante, and is it unfair to expect him to make a similar impact, or at least a pretty big impact?
Yeah, I told him. I mean, they've been doing that their whole lives, though. So you know, you can say that, hey, you don't have to come here and be your brother, but if you ask him, he thinks he's better than his brother. So, but he's they're similar as far as what they can do, playing wide receiver. You know, the athleticism, they can run. They're tough kids. They've played both sides of the ball in high school. So a lot of similarities in that. So, you know, it's if you could have another Avante Cox in your team, you'd definitely take another all-conference player. So, we hope for him to come in here. Obviously, we don't put that pressure on anybody, but you want the kids that put that on, that not pressure, I don't think is the right word, but expectations. Hold yourselves to that standard, and I think that they've done that their entire lives.
You have Griffin Sarah, but is Nico coming back for his next year?
Yeah, Nico's coming back.
So kicker's not really one of the
Yeah, we've got you know, that's one area that's we've got all of our kickers coming back. You know, so probably next cycle will be heavy emphasis on, you know, Jack's coming back at punter, and I mean, you look across the country, there's a lot of Australian punters getting signed today. And, you know, Jack, they were before we signed Jack too, but you see more and more of them where Jack comes from, that organization that's pumping those guys out are doing a great job. But so we're excited to have Jack back, Nico, and Griffin.
did your new staff open up any new areas that you didn't expect this recruiting cycle?
Yeah, I think so. Number one, this is a great recruiting staff. It means something to them. That's what everybody's going to have their own whatever way of going about recruiting, your personality. You can't try to be somebody you're not. Recruiting's about hard work. It's about getting to know it's about relationships. It's about building those relationships with high school coaches that you trust, and being genuine, being open and honest, and being a hard worker. If you got to put in the work, you got to put in the time, you got to watch the film, you got to know everything about them. I mean, it takes a lot of time to get to know all those things about them, and there's been quadruple the amount that we've went through that we didn't take, or there's going somewhere else. So it's not just getting to know these few guys, you know. It's a lot of work, but you know, I think the Alabama, we've been more in Atlanta. With Adam over in Cincinnati, we signed 2 kids from Cincinnati last year, 3 kids from Ohio last year, with Coach Rowland being his 4 or 5 years at Cincinnati on the staff. Some of his relationships with the high school coaches over there. That's how we initially got in on Adam. Coach Rowland did a great job with him. I think that some of the additions in the staff in the last years opens up some different places.
That Rochester group, I mean, 2 years ago you were just bringing in Nick, and now you've got 4 that kind of all play together. That's the immediate chemistry.
Yeah, for sure. What you like about them is just they're all workers. You know, they're all tough and workers, low maintenance. You know, I always tell the story about Avante. I'll always remember it. I mean, he's been here for a year now. He was in this conversation last year, and I've never heard him complain one time. It doesn't matter if you ask him to run. Sometimes you forget about him, like, hey, we got to get him a rest. If not, he won't ever come out. He won't ever complain. He never asked for the ball. He, and then just his toughness is, we had a pretty cold week there, that 1 week when it was freezing here, and it was like the coldest practice you've ever been a part of. It was like 9 degrees when we came off, and it was a little bit windy, and it was cold. I had about 4 or 5 layers. I'm not embarrassed to say that. Avante came out there with no long sleeve shirt on and no pants on, like he just had his football pants on, and didn't say anything until the trainer made him put a shirt on, because it was a rule that you had to cover up all your skin because of the weather. But he's just a kid that goes out there and doesn't complain about much and works. So I think that's what we know we're getting, especially when you get a kid from Derek's team up there in Rochester.
You mentioned talking with Geiska about some, I don't know if it's a little analytical study, or you look at some of the best kids you've had, you've seen them in camp, or do you have a blueprint that you really like to look at? Certainly, the longer you look at these kids, the better you're probably going to know them. But is one kind of blueprint work better for you? I
think so, and I think that it takes time to develop that blueprint. I've said that before. I mean, getting better as a coach isn't just all about X's and O's, but it's how you're running your program. What's the emphasis in recruiting? What kids, now that class in 2016. That was our first recruiting class. Now they're graduating. They're DJ Davis and they're Malik Haynes and they're Jeremy Chin and those guys that came and didn't redshirt, Landon Lenore and these players that have developed. And then now you can see, like, okay, it's 4 years later. Who came here? Who's successful on and off the field? What were their characteristics? Each year you're taking notes on everything. If a kid comes here and doesn't work out, whether it's in the classroom or on the field, or if it was a evaluation miss, where did we go wrong or what happened? And sometimes that's going to happen. It happens from the NFL, where they get paid millions of dollars to evaluate and fly them in and work them out, and they come. So you just got to continue to I think the biggest thing is know what your vision is. Know what you stand for, what are the values that you're going to put on, and then go get that, and be okay with there's going to be a lot of kids, and you can get distracted. And you can be like, well, we could go get this kid, or we could get this kid, but you go back to, like, no, we laid out these are the characteristics, these are the questions we want answered. And when you get a kid like that, you don't keep looking else. Like, this is our kid. We're sticking to him. We've talked about him. We've all seen him. He's checked every box, and sign them. And those are the kids that come here. They want to be here. I think that when you find kids that it's important for their parents to get them over here, and you see them and they get on campus and there's no surprises, they usually work out. So I think that when we continue to be together for multiple years, you can get a good blueprint on who works and who doesn't.
I know you said a lot that you're expecting some freshmen to make an impact right away. Is there anyone specifically you see pushing for playing time?
It's hard to say right now. I tell them right now with the 4 game rule, when I sit in their living room, and they should all be coming here expecting to play. That's what I told when we do. We have developmental practices every Sunday, and my message to them every Sunday night is, especially once you get through training camp and you get through the bye week and you get to week 6, 7, we've been going at this thing. You're not a freshman anymore. You should look like a different player. You should be playing better. And so it was fun to see some of those freshmen that got to play on special teams in North Dakota State. They got their 3rd or 2nd game at North Dakota State because they started to develop, they started to practice better. So used to you'd be pulling the red shirt for that, and they didn't get to do that. So I think it's helped in the development of the kid because they get to come and compete and know that I could get rewarded even if it's late. I'm not ready right now, but I could be, and play. So they should all show up saying I'm going to compete to play.
How much do you think your late run this season opened up or factored into this class this year?
No, I think it had a big impact. I think that we've done a good job recruiting, but you want to win, and you want to what you're saying, and them see it. And there was a lot of commitments that happened from the end of the season until right now. Last year at this time, I think we signed 9. We signed 18 kids in the early signing period. I don't think that that's a judge too. There's going to be years that you don't sign as many or don't have as many spots or whatever that is. But I think people across the country, high school coaches, they see the way that we're doing things, and they can see the excitement and they can see where we're going, and kids want to be a part of a winning program.
What's the challenge with recruiting a junior college or a transfer kid when you know that you got limited time? Is it feel that you must succeed right away, or must kind of deal?
You mean like with the kid?
Yeah, like you mentioned in his question that you have a kid, if he progresses towards the end of the season, you might, with the 4 game rule, but when a kid transfers, your window, some coaches tell me, yeah, we recruit a guy that's a transfer with the intention of him coming in starting right now, because we really don't have much of a window to develop.
No, you definitely expect them to be ahead of the freshmen coming in, and you're recruiting them for a specific need on your team, or you would take another kid that you can have in your program for 4 or 5 years. I think you're always, what are your needs? They should be ahead. They should have been in where you're taking them from. Do you trust the coaches that they're coming from? What type of kid they are? Have they developed in a weight? So they've been in a Division I weight program and developed and been ahead of all that type of thing. And then what is the reason for leaving? We've had a lot of kids that have come down to FCS, and maybe if they're leaving because they're just not getting the playing time that they want, and they can become a good player. So I think there's a difference between a junior college kid and an FBS drop-down kid. Was it grades, or was it like Petzel that just developed late in his high school career and didn't get the offers that he wanted, and he went and played, and now he's playing against junior college kids, and he's put on 25 pounds, and he's a different kid, and now we get him for 3 years. Do you get him for 2, or is he a grad transfer and you get him for 1? So I think each kid is different, but you definitely do take a transfer with the expectation of them coming and helping your team out the immediate season that they get here.
Okay. Is there anything else?
Thanks, Chris.
All right. Appreciate